Hi everyone, thanks for coming to Atilus's Q&A video series. So for the next few months and maybe even longer than that into 2021, we're going to do a couple of videos about some common digital trends, just some questions that we can answer for our clients and for other small businesses. And so today we're going to start talking about ADA website compliance, and I've got two people on our team who know ADA very well. Valerie Baker, who's one of our account managers, and then Harry Casimir, who's our CEO. So first thing, I guess we'll just kick this off with, can you guys explain to us why is ADA important? Why should businesses consider making their sites ADA?
Okay, so ADA is important just as any building that you go into has a ramp or some other way for individuals with disabilities to access those buildings. It should be the same for anything on the web. Um, People with disabilities make up about 60% of the US population. So even though you may not encounter someone that's physically disabled, you're more likely going to encounter someone that has a disability at some point in your life.
As Val was saying, ADA compliance is extremely important. Website ADA compliance, to be precise. As she mentioned, we are well aware of what ADA compliance mean for a building. Uh, if you live in the US or Canada, you know very well almost every building has to meet certain compliance before the county, the city, and the government even let them open. Likewise, for website, ADA compliance itself did not come about until around 2008 in full force. Now, ADA compliance for electronic devices came back in um, 1998 and Section 508 when the Justice Department updated, when the Senate actually updated the ADA compliance. And ADA, to go back a little bit, ADA stands for American Disability Act. So when that act was updated in 1998 and subsequently updated in 2001 and 2008, that's when what we call the ADA compliance version 2.1 was adopted, and the Justice Department stated that any um, any website, any company that provide access to their product and services to the public, their website should be in compliance as if it was a physical building. Now, the initial ADA compliance itself was really applied to government entity that receive federal government money. But eventually, what happened when GOJ updated their articles stated that ADA compliance, if you have a physical location for the service that you provide, your website should be accessible as well. So why it is that important is because as we speak today, there are one in four American is has some kind of a disability at the moment. Roughly about 60 million American live with disability, and there are four type of disability. There is audible, physical disability, cognitive disability, and visual disability. So, and each of them really kind of change the way someone can interact with a different piece of electronics, computer, website differently. And how this play in a big role on the website itself is that when you go to a website, if you are not disabled, really there is nothing that you cannot access. If you have your mouse and your keyboard with you, you just drive right through. But imagine someone that cannot see, that use assistive technology to access that information from your website, or someone that does not have the physical ability to do so. And that can come in many forms. Some of us get into an accident and we temporarily disabled, so we need assistive technology to get through. And some people are permanently disabled, they are not able to navigate website the way a person with without disability can. So therefore, a website ADA compliance become important for that reason, so that people can navigate with the website, your website, with the with the assistive technology they are using, and that is why it's so important. And there are, you will see some of the advantages why it makes sense as a business to have your website ADA compliance. It's not just about not getting a lawsuit, but or a demand letter from those lawyers, or someone cannot access your website information. But there are truly important business um, advantages uh, to have your website ADA compliant. I hope I covered this question, Kristen, in terms of why it is that important.
The next question, which I know is something that we've encountered with our own clients and with new clients who've come and talked to us about ADA. So, can you use plugins to make your site compliant? And when I say plugins, I mean stuff like you've seen widgets on sites where you can adjust the text height and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk just a little bit about that and why that might be good or bad?
In short, not really. The plugins, most of the time, are just putting surface level adjustments to the site. So as soon as that widget goes down for whatever reason, or you are no longer paying for it, all of the quote accessibility changes that they made are gone. Versus doing a manual audit with actual human testers and everything like that. Um, those changes are permanent. Those are harder to remove. If your site goes down, it'll come right back up with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know that there's been a lot of talk, and I think they may have their time in place. But Harry, do you have anything to?
Absolutely, yeah, and good point, Val. The thing with plugins, it's just like everything else. It's convenient. People find it like it's instantly and readily available to apply to your website. So to piggyback to what Val said, those plugins, there are two names for this. The way you apply ADA compliance on your website. There are layover, and there are coded HTML adjustment. So what that means is, as you may have seen, so many websites nowadays using one of those plugins to claim that their website ADA compliance. Actually, many of those plugins even make the website even worse than it needs to be, because
Yep.
what happened is those plugins drop a lot of additional codes onto your website to make to adjust, to make enhancement to the text, to adjust images. And what happened in assistive technology, and there are many different type of assistive technology out there. It's the one that works for people with the physical disability, people with hearing impairment, um, deaf, blindness. So you name it, there are a lot of different assistive technology that help people go to a website. Those plugins usually on the way of helping people actually get the information they need. Now,
Mm-hmm.
again, there are places where this is the only option you have, and that's what you should apply. But I always uh, tell people to be careful what kind of plugin you use and how you apply it, because at the end of the day, as your website, if you were to develop your website from the ground up to be ADA compliance, that means the code on your website is built in a different way than just any other website. So,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that your website can meet compliance without using any of those plugins. So that someone that use assistive technology will come to your website. The the uh, the web accessibility, the web the WCAG really give a good guidelines on what needs to be implemented, how it needs to be implemented, when it needs to be implemented for each website and each different type of content on the website, so that your website can meet ADA compliance. So those plugins do not help you meet ADA compliance. They help, well, they claim they help people access your website, be able to access your website, those people that have disability. More than often, those same plugins are a barrier to those assistive technology people use. So it is very,
Yeah.
very important you understand the plugin that you are using and how you're using it, especially if you are a physical store that sell things, you have to be very, very careful. And again, there is no one size fit all on this, because there are times you may need to use a plugin, but for most basic website, I think you should find an agency or developer that understand ADA compliance,
Mhm.
and one, make a complete audit on your website, and then what we call remediation, meaning fixing all those bugs, any issues that you find within the audit, and then get your website to be monitored by that agency or that developer to ensure going forward your website stay in compliance, and remove those plugins that dump additional content and barrier on your website. That's really what I would say about plugins.
Right. And I think we can agree that, as an agency, we obviously recommend the more manual approach, right? To the short answer to that question.
Yes.
And then I guess last, and I want to get this in like your knee-jerk reaction, just really quick. And I think Val, you might be the best person to answer this because you've worked on several of our audits over the last year, however long we've been doing this now. So what is the most commonly encountered ADA issue that you've seen on all the audits that you've helped run?
Lack of alt tags on images.
Yes.
So an alt tag is a descriptor of the image. So if there's any text, include that for people that are using screen readers. And just it helps users know what they're looking at, know what they're seeing on the page, even if their eyes aren't physically looking at it.
Yeah, and I would say, the second most one, just having, both of us having worked with clients and helping them maintain compliance on their website, is another issue we see a lot is color contrast. And what I'm
Yes.
most often met with when I call out like how you need to meet certain color contrast requirements is that, oh, well, I can read it just fine. And so I've had this
Right.
conversation before where it's okay, so you as somebody who's not disabled can read the text. However, somebody who is maybe colorblind or has any other sort of visual impairments, if they're unable to distinguish between the background and the foreground, that becomes an issue. So I think that
Yeah.
I've encountered that myself with some clients.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times people are very married to the colors that are in their brand. And while logos don't fall under the web content accessibility guidelines, the text on the website does.
Mhm.
So that's another important thing to think about as you update branding or anything. Consider, will this color combination work for everyone regardless of ability?
Another one that I can mention is also videos.
Yes.
As the
Yeah.
web is becoming more video-ish, I guess if that's a word, and more website and companies try to um, present the message to videos. It is very important as well to have not only video closed caption, but also, if possible, to provide a way for the user to get the information through a transcription.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very simple. You have a video, maybe however long it is, transcribe this video message, and it'll give a link right below the video to say if you want to read the whole transcript, you can click there. And
Yep.
really, it's very simple, but it make a big difference for someone that may not be able to watch the video, that may not be able to hear the video. So all those things make big difference in people's lives. So, and the easier you make it for people, the better it is. So yeah.
Yeah, so three most common things. And I think the biggest takeaway from that portion is that if you have a website, even if you can't work on full ADA compliance right now, start adding alt tags to your images. If you have videos, get transcriptions and or captions added to them. We use a tool called Rev, R-E-V as in very. And then what was the last thing? The color contrast. So even consider it when you're making brochures, obviously the web compliance doesn't apply, but in general, if color contrast isn't that great, people are going to have a hard time reading it. And then I guess that's pretty much all we have to say for this Q&A series. We blog about ADA compliance a lot on our website, so you can always go to our blog at atilus.com/blog. Any final thoughts from any of you guys?
The last thing I could say is, again, ADA compliance is not something kind of, I know it's fairly new, but with the current trend, with more and more people aware of what it is and how it applies, it can only benefit you as a business owner, uh, as a business director of marketing, or if you're in charge of web development, wherever you are. It is extremely important. It's also make a lot of business sense when you think about it. If your website is ADA compliant, when someone with disability come to your site, they will be able to access that information. So they're not gonna just, bounce or leave right away. That's basically increase your website audience, that's visitors, and the potential customers. And also it make common sense because again, many things that when a website is fully ADA compliance, meeting ADA compliance, many of the same element ADA compliance has is included in SEO. So again, this is, we're not gonna go into detail of SEO here today, but this is how important ADA compliance is because it kind of drip to other factor that can be beneficial for our business.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Well, thank you for having us, Kristen, and looking forward to the next segment.
Yeah. Thanks, Kristen.